Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new moon study. We've got Lev Mekudash, the renewed heart. And I'm so excited that you guys are here tonight with me, especially those of you who are celebrating the last great day. What a blessing that you're spending your last great day here with us learning about the Father's calendar. And this is something that is just so special to me. I can't even tell you. Hey, Miss Sarita. This is something that has been quite the journey the last year and a half. And my friend Rhonda over there, she's my cohort. She's the one, I give her like ideas of things, and then she brings all the beauty to the ideas. So you'll see some of that tonight, what she does. So we bounce each other's ideas off of each other, and then we try to bring them to fruition, whatever the Father's calling us to. And it's been like the coolest journey. And one of the things that I find that we do lots of times we go, you just can't make this stuff up. When you start paying attention to the Father's calendar, you just can't make it up. When you start seeing and being aware of what's going on around, it's been a fun journey. So we're going to get started. I'm going to do some housekeeping before we get started. This meeting tonight is going to be a little longer than normal, just because we're going to do a little bit of preview about why we study the new moons before we get into the 8th month. And so the time usually may not run long. So if you've only got an hour to commit tonight and we're running over that, catch the rest on the replay. So I hope you can join us as much as possible, and I'll try not to talk too fast to get through things, but sometimes I do that, especially when I'm nervous. This is my first slide presentation. Please, y'all just start praying, and we'll do that in just a minute. So normally it's going to be the Tuesday before the new moon. So if the new moon falls on a Thursday, then it would be that couple days before Tuesday. If the new moon falls on a Tuesday, it'll be the week before on that Tuesday, if that makes sense. You'll get those dates. They'll just come to you. So this meeting, it's kind of once a month, but because of the way the new moons fall, we'll have a couple, like maybe twice, because Tuesday of the month and the last Tuesday of the month because of the way it falls. So just be aware that always this exact date or something like that. We're going on Yahweh's calendar, not our calendar, right? Don't have a lot of control over my work schedule. I have most control. So I don't anticipate there being any major issues, but just make sure. I think I'm coming in and out, and I'm sorry for that. This is part of our internet issues for the day. So I hope I'm coming across okay. So disclaimers about our resources. If you go into your Rooted Cafe, into the cafe call, there are some PDFs there for you. One of them is kind of a note-taking sheet that says month, tribe, mazel. We're just going to march through those whenever we do. We're going to march through them, but with some flourish. So it may seem at times maybe you're just getting a fact or figure about things, but we're going to bring it all together at the end, especially when we're talking about emotional healing and spiritual warfare. So look for that PDF. There's also our resources page in there. And I like what Charlie says. Whenever we recommend a resource, you got to spit out the bones sometimes. So we all know what we believe and what we're convicted of. So there's some things that, when I read it, like it meshes and it flows, and I look at everything through that lens of Torah. So that's what we're called to do. So you do the same, and that means me too. Keep me in line, ladies. So another thing, this is not a calendar discussion. It's not, I'm actually on a different calendar than what the majority of you guys are on right now. And so we keep the equinox calendar. And so this is not like it, I celebrate with you. In fact, I was going to put up a little sukkah, and I left my little canopy outside the other morning, the morning after I bought it, and it snapped in the wind. so I was gonna, in spirit, I was with you guys Sukkoting this week. So, but it's not a calendar debate. We're just talking about the months. So if you're celebrating Cheshvan next week, then hallelujah and praise the Father and see what you do. And I'll be following along the month after that. But the cool thing that I've seen is how the Father works no matter what calendar you're keeping. And that is a testament this year. Rhonda and I can say that we have seen both calendars, both months. We look at Israel, we look at the things that are happening in Israel prophetically, the things that are happening in our life prophetically, and it's just like, whoa. And he just blesses you for being on that journey. So remember that, ladies. Don't run away when we talk about constellations or the letters or organs. If it seems a little odd, give it a minute, let it soak. And I know that some people are coming out of some new age different things, and so that could be kind of a hot button topic. So I don't want you to be scared of those things, but I understand if those are things that you're just not ready to touch on. But I just pray that you would just really seek out the Father in those things, because what we're doing is all about taking his calendar back. And you will see that as we go through tonight, especially in Cheshvan. I've just really, it's been great. So those are our housekeeping things. So we're going to start with prayer. So let's go. Oh, Father, we just come before you. You know all the obstacles that it's taken to get here. But Father, we just give you praise and thanks that you are here with us in our midst, that you work out the issues that we have. I pray that you will be my technology. I pray that you make it work. And Father, I pray that my mouth and my slides all flow with the Spirit and none of my own. And I just pray for the ladies that are here with us tonight and celebrating your last great day, Father. And what a perfect day to talk about the 8th month is on the 8th day. I can't wait. Maybe it was a divine appointment. And Father, for those who are going to hear this later, I pray you bless their time and their study of your calendar. Hallelujah and amen. Okay, so here's the big test for me. And it's so weird not hearing anybody else and just listening to myself talk. So we'll see how I do here. Okay, share screen. I'm getting there, ladies. All right. Lev Mekudash, or renewed heart. I want to thank our friend Ruth, who is part of our assembly and part of our new moon study. She gave a beautiful suggestion when I asked. This one just really resonated with me about that renewed heart and the renewal that we get a chance to do every month, every day with the Father, every week with the Father at Sabbath, and then every month. And then at our yearly feast. It's just amazing how he's constantly given us that visual to renew. So it's such a blessing. So that is what we're calling it, Lev Mekudash. I'm going to minimize you guys here. There we go. So welcome to our study of the Hebrew months, or the new moon study. You may have heard people will say Happy Rosh Chodesh. That's the head of the month, the new month. And Kodesh is the Hebrew. I've got the Hebrew Strongs there, 2320 and 2318 is its root word. It implies the new moon and it implies renewal. If we're going to start talking about his calendar, we're going to go right back to the beginning. He says in Genesis 1, on day 4 of creation, we find the Creator putting lights in heaven that will separate day and night and be for signs. That's the Hebrew word at, and for seasons, moedim, and for days and years. The greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. That's Genesis 1:14 through 16. So we're all familiar with our creation story, and that word for seasons, moedim, those are our appointed feast times. We have the moed. So when we see that in the word, and he's talking about the seasons, he's not necessarily talking about spring, summer, fall, and winter. He's talking about his feast times that he has set in place all at the beginning. the light from day one, it needed a place to dwell, and it had to dwell in vessels of the sun and the moon and the stars so that we could experience it in the physical, because we know that that light is a little maybe too much for us in the physical. But he has given us these beautiful things that we can understand, and teaches us all about his calendar. Psalm 19, 1-4. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them, yet their voice goes out into all the earth. Their words to the end of the world. I've always loved this. I think, how many times have we quoted this? The heavens declare his glory. And I've come to see this as more than just those beautiful sunrises and sunsets and that glorious sky that we're looking at. And I do, obviously, that is that when we see those trees and the wind blowing and the seasons changing, I think it is that. But I also believe that he has placed his story in the heavenlies. When I think of Adam and Eve and I think of the Father walking with them, they're looking up at these stars and they're saying, what is all this? And he goes, let me tell you a story. And he tells them the story of the beginning from the end. He tells them the story of the redemption of the one who's going to fight for his beloved children that he's created. And we're going to see that in our constellations. And so that's why I really hope that you see just the beauty. And I personally think that like there was not written language for quite a while. So Adam and Eve, they had no reason for written language. They all talk. And we know that so many ancient civilizations that they spoke in stories. And one of the things that I learned when I was in Hawaii, I was talking to some native people. We were praying over some land. And one of the things that she said is that some of their native gods and goddesses that they have, they originally were stories to tell about the creation of the island and the lava flow. So Maui, Pele, those kinds of things. And she said at some point they became gods and goddesses. And I believe that's exactly what happened. The enemy got in there and got mixing things up. And so then it began to pervert what it is the Father had and to pervert the story that he had in the stars for us. But we're going to take it back by becoming aware of the Father's calendar has made me more mindful of his message to us and seeking the treasure he's hidden in his cycles. When we start asking questions about what is all that up there, he's going to begin to reveal those messages that he has. There's a beautiful story that there's an author named Ken Bailey that I know this through Lois Terberg's books, Sitting at the Feet of Rabbi Jesus. And he talks about sitting on the beach and looking at the beauty of everything. And it's gorgeous. You've got this, maybe they're looking at the palm trees, the beautiful white sand, everything is beautiful. And then you go snorkeling and you realize there's a whole world. And that's kind of what it's been like studying the Hebraic roots, right? And so I can even say it's been like that studying the calendars. It's taken me even to this other part of the ocean. So it doesn't say that the beauty on top is irrelevant. It just says there's so much more. And so I hope you find that too in our study. I love this verse. It's the glory of Elohim to conceal a matter and the glory of kings to search it out. So there's some things that are kind of hidden, but not all things are hidden until the end for us. There are some things that he's hidden. And he said, if you do a little search, you're going to find that treasure, that pearl. Okay, and now it's not letting me. I always see people having trouble like with their, let's see. And it's not letting me move forward.
Try an arrow or hitting your tab or enter.
I can't even escape out.
on your keyboard, try just on your keyboard, just hit your arrow or like your tab
I,
to your tab.
I I was trying.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Oh, here. We'll try that. I don't know where it got me. Oh, I think we're at the right spot. So why the moon? The new moon is that's the creator's calendar. If we want to know what he's up to, let's check his planner. It's open for all to see, and we'll find our name is written in there because he's got time that he has set apart for us. The new moon is a great teacher. So we learn about light, dark, death, resurrection, sowing and reaping and renewal. They are physical and spiritual lessons. The earth mirrors the heavenly. So when we see the things that are going on around us, the things that we're going, what on earth is going on? Maybe with government, maybe with wars, maybe it just in our family. Why am I being challenged in my authority? Why is this seem to be breaking down over here? Well, maybe if we kind of check the months and we see what's going on, we can see how to pray into those. That's what I've found. Um, that's been one of the most interesting things that has come up is just seeing the way the Father works to show you how to pray into those things. The duties of the moon, setting boundaries for months, keeps and guards the Moedim, warns things to come and reflects the light of the sun. And those are too. We're setting boundaries and guarding the Moedim. We guard the Sabbath. We're told to do that. Um, Warning for things to come when we can see things because we're in tune spiritually with his calendar. We know when to be on the lookout and give those warnings. And of course, we're to be reflecting the light. I don't know if you guys remember that song from maybe the early 2000s, and I cannot remember the name of the band, but he says, I want to be the moon because it reflects the sun. I don't want to be the stars that shine on everyone. So I've been singing that like all week as I've been writing my beautiful friend Rhonda up there. Some of you guys may see her if she's still got her video on. She gave me this beautiful thought this last Sabbath when we were talking about the presentation. She said, as I was thinking the Father for teaching us about the way he keeps or sees time, I was specifically thanking him for the sun and moon because it's part of the Modeh Ani, the morning prayers. The Father responded by explaining the sun was given the responsibility of giving warmth, life, and nourishment to the earth and to us. That's the physical. But the moon was given the responsibility of teaching us the signs and seasons, nourishing us spiritually. And I thought, that's it. Like, you just nailed it. Like, class is done. So it makes perfect sense that the sun, that's for our physical, the earth, and for us, because we know that it heals us naturally. But we also, the moon, when we really think about it, all that it does, a lot of it has to do with that spiritual understanding. And so when we begin to look into his ways, his calendar, we're going to take back what the enemy is trying to steal. The lessons we learn are so important that the enemy wants to take it over. Anything he wants dominion over, time, family, identity, those are things we need to take a hard look at and be a part of bringing restoration. Speaks out against the Most High. He wears down the saints. He will intend to make alterations to times and law. And Isaiah 14:13 says, I will ascend to heaven and raise my throne above the stars of Elohim, and I will sit on the mount of assembly. That word Mount of Assembly, if we got creation gospel people in here, that's related to the Moedim. So that passage in Daniel says that goes on later to say that he'll be judged. And the dominion of the kingdoms and greatness will be given to those saints. So, as he's trying to steal things away, the Father said, no, these things are for somebody else. These are for my saints, those who love me and who are following after me in righteousness. So he had a plan from the beginning to mess things up, and he tries to take the identity of the Messiah, of Yah's people, and even his calendar. But when we take notice, when we're called to be a part of the restoration, we take notice of his calendar, it brings our spiritual eyes into focus. We can see what it is that needs to be dealt with, and we can see what the enemy's plan is. So I want you to kind of hold on idea of that spiritual light and shedding light on the enemy's plan. Kind of put a little pin in that. We're going to talk about that again later. So how do we celebrate? There's a difference. If you guys have the Biblical New Moon, a guide to celebrating, guide for celebrating by Keisha Gallagher, this leans heavily on her book. She is my teacher for the new moons. That's where we learn to discuss it. And we still do that. We have just since then, in this last year and a half, have started adding, if you see the resource page, a ridiculous amount of resources. Like, it's been so awesome, like just great resources that we have found that have added to our study. And so so Keisha explains beautifully the difference in the counting of the years and the counting of the months. So the sages and text evidence kind of seems that the earth had a birth, right? It was created along with mankind on creation week. And they kind of give that to the Feast of Trumpets is when man was created. And so that's where we get those counting of the years. So right now we just changed over to 5782, and we'll discuss that in just a minute. There's some cool stuff with that. So Keisha, like I said, she explains this great. But what we do see is that there is a rebirth or a spiritual birth in Exodus, where Yahweh tells Moses, this will be the beginning of months for you. And that happens in the Aviv Sun, or celebrating Passover. And so as far as celebrating, we don't see a whole lot in the word specific that says you must do this on the new moon. It's not laid out in Leviticus 23, except for Feast of Trumpets, which is our one new moon feast. But you'll see in some of the Bible verses, the passages that we have here, there's David and Jonathan celebrated the new moon. We have the Shunammite woman, I think it's Shunammite, where she's looking for Elisha, and her husband says, it's not the new moon. Why are you going? It's not the new moon or Sabbath. And so what we do see is that there was some kind of gathering. So they maybe went to the tabernacle or later the temple, or maybe locally they got together. We're not sure, but it looks like there were gatherings and offerings that were made. Let's see. And it was funny because I remembered that as I was getting stuff ready this week, that Cheshvan was our first official new moon study for our local ladies assembly group. And I say ladies, but we now have men who have joined us. So we meet the Sabbath evening, because a lot of our people come from out of town. We meet the Sabbath evening before the new moon. And so it was just ladies at first. We did it on our Zoom chat. And then next thing you know, we've got men coming, couples coming, young people coming. It's just exploded, and it's been such a blessing to share the things that we've been learning, and just seeing how the Father is working through the calendar in their lives. So Rhonda and I have been studying, watching Keisha, and sharing. And so that's kind of been how we started. And then from there, like I said, we just added resources and kept adding on. It's been great. So I hope if you guys don't have some type of new moon celebration, maybe it's just sighting the new moon and blowing the trumpets. Our assembly does that. And so with our personal new moon study, but the night of the new moon, we go and sight it and blow the trumpets. It could be a ladies' gathering of families, picnics, hikes, whatever works for you. And those things, they, she talks about, in Keisha's book, she talks about different ways to celebrate and what they have done. So I hope, and I look forward to your testimonies about your new moon study. Okay, we're going to skip that one real quick. These are some of the new moon. I'm going to show you kind of our evolution of new moon here. This is Rhonda's beautiful setup. Like I said, she brings the beauty to all the ideas that I have, and then ideas that she has. It just has added and added. So some of the things you see here, she has like a little piece sand garden. It's actually Himalayan salt. And so she has all of these wonderful things that she's got set up for the new moon. And the reason for this is not just for fun. When you use all of your senses, and Rhonda's a Montessori teacher, so if you know about that, like that's using all your senses, art, creativity, you learn better. And I am a very black and white, non-visual kind of person, or at least I was. But the Father has changed me as I've studied the calendar. And when I am writing things out, I do. If you see in the back of the one picture, it looks like a little chalkboard drawing. That is from Christine Vales. You can find her on YouTube. She does these great teachings and uses the chalkboard drawing. So she inspired me. I do a whiteboard drawing. I am not an artist, let me tell you. I was going to do one for tonight and I just didn't have time to get it done. So next one, I'll have one done for you. But mine are some kind of something. I don't know, but it sticks with you when you're talking about the sense, the like the smell and the food that goes with the month, and making our rocks. We paint rocks. You can see some of them there. The one we will talk about medotes, which are characteristics. And Rhonda had a great idea of bringing in painted rocks, and we write on them. And it sits with for me, it sits with my new moon stuff, so that it's in front of me all the time. So I don't just do my new moon and then put it away in a binder. I do a new moon, and it's in front of me for the whole month to be meditating on. And if you can see the pictures right now, I don't know how many are actually like looking or just listening, but if you're looking, you'll see in the top left corner is one of Rhonda's prayer boards. That girl, she's got it going on. She does prayer boards and has done a lesson on those for us before. It's beautiful. So if you're ever interested in more of those, something like that, talk to her. So our presentations went from one handout that just had the tribe, the mazel, the constellation on it, and the medotes, different things like that. So now Rhonda even makes us an essential oil, and she puts a lot of thought into prayer and those things. These are some of our resources. His appointed times, that's the chalkboard. Christine Bales, we call her the chalkboard lady. The three in the middle, the healing and the Hebrew months. I'm going to tell you, we have really gleaned a lot from those books. However, when they talk about the constellations and the tribes, they put the tribes in a different order than what they are traditionally. So if you get those books, if you're interested in reading them or checking them out, just be aware. So what's funny is that when I read those and I see her connection, because she connects the tribes to whatever the constellation is how she laid it out, I see it. Again, the Father blesses you in your journey. So those have been awesome. We have went from one huge binder to a bunch of small ones. We couldn't fit everything of our resources in one big 3-inch binder. So the binders that are on the screen, that is Rhonda's beautiful work there. So she has hers all separated out. Mine is not all separated out yet. Okay, I'm going to go back real quick here to starting the journey. We just changed over to 5782 for those of you on the traditional calendar. And so I think we have talked about this before and seen some interesting things out of these years and the numbers. So 5780, which was at the end of 2019, had the pay, which is the mouth. And of course, we spent all the rest of the year with our mouths covered. 5781 brought us into the fall of 2020. And so that one was the 8 and the 1, which was the Aleph and the pay. So back in Cheshvan, I had COVID at the end of Tabernacles and into Cheshvan. So I was locked down and on quarantine and got to study a lot. So it was a little blessing. In fact, that's when I found the Rooted Cafe. So what does Charlie like to say? A little gift wrapped in a trial. And so 5781 kind of had to do with like the authority of your mouth, right? Because Aleph is the authority. Um, and then what was funny is that my husband is the gematria guy, and he looked up 81 in a book that he has. And one of the words that equals 81 is the word for nostrils. So here, our first new moon study that we did was Cheshvan. The senses smell, which I had no smell. Um, and one of the, it wasn't a main constellation, but one of the constellations it's like called a lesser constellation that was in the sky. It was called Corona. You cannot make this stuff up. So here I am last year. It's just turned 5781. 81 is the Hebrew word for nostrils is off. So it's an aleph and a pay or a fay. And so that word is nostrils, and it talks about it's God's wrath, it kind of gives you that implication at times in the word. And so there was that, and then there was corona in the sky. It was just something. But this year we're in 5782, and it's the Shemitah year. It's a restful year. So we have the pay and the bait. We have the pay is again our mouth, command, speak, and bait is our house, our tent, our body, the inside. So this is the year to declare and speak His word over your home and body. And that declaration is from Christine Bales, our chalkboard lady. She did a great teaching on 5782. Okay, and here we go. We are in Cheshvan, and I'm going to keep going. So if anybody has anything to say or add, I can't see you right now because I'm trying to help my bandwidth. So if anybody has anything, do we have anything, Charlie or Sydney? Any questions or anything that anybody needs to bring up before we head into our Cheshvan? Okay, great. Awesome. Let me find my, all right. Cheshvan is month 8. And it's 8 has such a significance of that rest. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. It's an increase. 7 is our completeness. So 8 is like one more. Okay. This tends to be a quiet time, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. It's also called bull, meaning rain, increase, or produce. So we can see why there's a connection there to Noah and the flood. Heshvan is shortened from Mar Heshvan, and Mar, as many of you guys already know, is bitter. So like Mara, the bitter waters. Why is it bitter? Well, there's no feast days in Heshvan, so it really is kind of this quiet, restful. You've been going this month, even though the 7 kind of indicates, that Shabbat. It's still a lot of stuff going on, a lot of excitement, a lot of joy, a lot of repentance, a lot of crying, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of things that were dealt with. And so now you come to Heshvan, and it's kind of that that sigh that now what do I do now? And maybe what you want to do is just stop. You just like, I'm just going to hibernate now. But there is still some work to be done, and we'll get to that. This is traditionally called the month of Messiah. He will come and rebuild or inaugurate the temple. Things that we see that happened in Heshvan, the flood began on the 17th of Heshvan. And on the 27th the following year, Noah and his family exited the ark. I do want to give a little disclaimer on that if you're reading, because next week we'll be in the Torah portion for Noah. If you read that, it'll tell you that he entered on the 17th of the 2nd month. So remember back when we talked about the year count and the month count. So if the year had started in Tishri, what we're calling Tishri, in the that would have been the first month. Well, then the second month would have been what we now call Heshvan. That was pre-Exodus. And so when you see that and you're going, wait, this is second month, and we just said that happened in the 8th month. I know it can be confusing. You're kind of, it's kind of like even our Gregorian calendar can sometimes be a little crazy with, you know, we have the fall, maybe people going back to school. We have, you know, your tax calendar, your fiscal calendar, you know, all kinds of things. So that is why if you're reading that next weekend, you're going, wait, that's not what Erica said. That is one of the um, ideas behind that. First Kings 6, 37 through 38 tells us that Solomon finished building the temple in the month of Bul or Heshvan. He had spent 7 years, which I think is very interesting, and then building that, and the temple was dedicated a year later in the 7th month. So he finished it in Heshvan. However, he did not dedicate it until the next year at Tishri. So that would have been the 8th year. So 8 is new beginnings. It's not just enough, it's more than enough. So we go from the natural to the supernatural. So that's what's going on this month. So let's tap into that. Our tribe for the month is Manasseh, which means cause to forget. There's also, it alludes to leaping away or leap over something like a gazelle does. Jacob's blessing. Whenever we go through our new moon studies, we always look at both blessings, Jacob's blessings, Moses' blessings. Sometimes you'll find significance in Ezekiel when he names tribes, and then Revelation too. So when you're studying, just look at Manasseh and kind of see all the things that kind of encompass that tribe. What did they do in the future? Do we see them in Revelation? Uh, you know, how are they talked about? So Jacob's blessing said that Joseph is, and it's Joseph, but we know that Manasseh and Ephraim are Joseph's sons. So sometimes it's linked in just the one. But he is a fruitful tree by spring with branches climbing over the wall. Archers provoked him, shot at him, and attacked him, but his bow, remember that, stayed steady and his arms remained limber. And Moses said, may Yahweh bless their land with water, the best gift heaven can send, with dew and deep springs below the ground. May he bless their land with the favor of the one who was in the burning bush. What a beautiful blessing. First of all, in the Genesis, in Jacob's blessing, he says his bow stayed steady. So here we are, we're in the 8th month. We've got the covenant rainbow that uh, brought Noah out of the ark. And then when you look at Revelation, when we see the Messiah coming again, he has a bow. And so those words are the same. In Moses' blessing, he talks about bless their land with water. During Sukkot is when in Israel they began to pray for the rain. They want those early rains. And so I remember last year being very aware that the day after the last great day, or the 8th day, it began to rain. One of the people that we follow over there had mentioned it on a post that they were like, we're getting rains today. So it was a blessing. So here we have, you know, we're talking about water, the flood, the land, the rains, all of those things. And so as we're going through these things, I don't want these to just be points. So, you know, okay, here's the name of the month. Here's it's the 8th month. So what about, you know, 8? What about Vanessa? I want you to begin thinking about, is there something here that leaps out at you? Maybe something about forgetting or not forgetting. Maybe something about the blessing, about the land, about the water. You just be aware of it. And maybe it's about the number 8. Maybe it's something significant in that. And you will begin to see these things come up in your time, in your study, in your prayer, or just around you in your circumstances. So some famous Manasseites, I don't know what we'll call them, but Gideon was from the tribe of Manasseh. He went out and was at night, was something I read interesting, that he went out at night is when he took down the altars and the pillars, and he had a group of other men from Manasseh that went with him. And just interesting that it was at night. It was in the cover of darkness. I think if you know the Gideon story, he wasn't the boldest of judges, right? He was kind of like, I'm not sure. Can you give me like, I really need to know, is this right? try to again. Father was so patient with him, and he went out at night and took down those altars, and he did it. You know, he was obedient, he did it. But sometimes maybe there's things that we have to do that might be under the cover, not of darkness, like evil kind of darkness, but under a cloud of his protection. We'll call it that. So just be thinking about those things. The tribe of Manasseh chose to stay on the east side of Jordan, but they were the first ones into battle when they went to the land. Manasseh was, he joined, the tribesmen joined Asa's revival, Hezekiah's Passover, and they fought with David. They're listed several times. So these were not guys that shrunk back from battle. When there were things to get done, they were in there getting things done. Now we get into the mazel. This is one of my favorites right now. This month, I picked up a book by Dr. James Kennedy called The Real Meaning of the Zodiac. And just wow, like I know, because I've been through this, I know, like, okay, you know, you got Scorpio, you've got Virgo, you got the, you know, the Virgin, you got like these, I knew those basics. But when you start looking at some of the stars that are in there and some of the lesser constellations, they're called decans, called lesser constellations. When you start looking at those and the names, and these names kind of go across the pictures that go with them. Now, when we look up at the sky, I don't know about you, but I don't see half of these except for the Big Dipper and Orion. Like, those are the only ones I can be like, okay, I see Orion's belt and I can tell the Big Dipper. But it just looks like a lot of stars and a lot of things that like I would never be able to bring a picture out of it. But again, I think this all stems from the creator of the universe talking to his children, Adam and Eve, and telling them the story and saying, see this over here in the sky? This is what this means. And this is what it's going to mean to my people. And see this in the sky? This is what it's going to mean. And this is what it's going to mean to my people. Do you see these snakes, the serpent that's in the sky? He's going to try to come after you. And they should have listened to that one, huh? But this month we have Scorpio, which is the scorpion. The Hebrew word is akrav, which has its root in a kev, or heel. And we know Father Yaakov, right? He has his root in that name. Scorpions and snakes are seen as judgments and hardships. Deuteronomy 8:15 said he led you through a great and terrible wilderness with its fiery serpents and scorpions. And in 1 Kings 12, when they came to seek respite, he said, my father disciplined you with whips, but I'll discipline you with scorpions, which actually he just took from a friend of his who told him to say that. Wasn't much of a strong-willed king in that way. After a successful trip where even the demons are subject to them in Yeshua's name, the 70 are told by the Messiah, I just love this, behold, I give you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all power of the enemy, and nothing will injure you. That's Luke 10:19. Hallelujah. We have that authority. And I think it's funny, like what is the difference between those demons? And then here we have serpents and scorpions, because they came back, they're like, you know, demons are subject to us. And he's like, yeah, but you know what else? He said serpents and scorpions. So it's like, it's almost like they're even worse, because, and I don't know if it's because of the, he's the one who's in charge of all those demonic creatures, and he is known as a serpent and a scorpion, or a serpent with a stinging tail kind of thing. So maybe it's because he is the one who's, you know, in charge of all those little demons, that when they have the power to, you know, it seemed like it's even a greater authority. So yeah, you had power over the demons, but I'm going to give you even the authority over the serpent and scorpion. So I don't know, there just seems to be something there. Just kind of a side note for my own wonder. Let's see. Adam, let's see. Scorpio is a picture in the heavenlies of the battle between the adversary and our Messiah. And we see this all the area of these mausals, they call them houses. So when you look at it, there's like 12 houses in the sky, and it's kind of like a pie shape. And when you look at it and see all that's in that pie, if you will, or that house, um, these are some of the other ones that we see. Um, the stars in Scorpio are Entris, which means wounding, and Lasath, which means perverse. Here we have Scorpion, which we know is the enemy. He's hardship, he's oppression, and he's trying to wound, and he's perverse. But standing on Scorpio is what they name Ophiuchus, which means serpent holder. And not only is he stepping on Scorpio, um, he is struggling with that great serpent. That constellation is called Serpent, and he is trying to get the crown, the corona that I talked about earlier. The serpent, when you look at it, the picture for it, his mouth is going after that, but the serpent holder is holding him back, and that's the picture of our Messiah. All of these that are fighting in the heavenlies for us, they may have these Greek names or Roman names or Asian, whatever name, whatever you're looking at, but they're the same story because it comes from creator of the universe, and he told the story originally. So Ophiuchus has his heel on the head of the serpent, but the stingers pointed at him, and so we know that he's gonna crush the head of the serpent, right? And he's gonna bruise his heel. But oh, death, where is your sting? The sting of that scorpion? No, nope. He said in that Luke verse that we just read, he said, "You have power over the enemy, and nothing will injure you." And that may not be in our physical and our spiritual. Hercules, which we know who he is known as Gibor, or mighty in Hebrew. He has his foot on the head of the dragon. So this is another one. The constellation, his head is facing down toward the serpent holder. And right in the center of this pie that I'm talking about is this dragon, this great dragon. And Hercules has his foot on the head of the dragon, and that is in the center of the constellations. And he's also holding the guardian in his hand. One of the words in Hercules means the head of him who bruises. So again, this is a picture that he has given us in the heavenlies. All right, we go into this is something new this year that we've kind of caught on to. I read it. It comes up in the Healing in the Hebrew Months books, and I just kind of I read it, and then actually last month for us, we ran a Elul. That one I can't even wait to share it for you guys next year. Like, I loved it so much. It just was like, oh, that's beautiful. So you guys have to stick with me all the way to a Elul, so that you guys can learn about that gate and the things that I learned. But this month, the gate is the horse gate. So when Nehemiah is building the walls, around the walls of Jerusalem are different gates. We know there are 12 gates. And in Nehemiah, it will tell you on a lot of them, it'll give you the names of the people who worked on the gates. It might tell you so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. It might tell you where they're from. In the Healing of the Hebrew Months that talks about the gates, she'll give what those names mean. And it's like, wow, that's perfect. And there are no names for this one. It just says that the priests were priest housing around that area, and it says the priest worked on the house gate. So there was no specific names, but we seem to know that the gate is on the east side, and we know that the east gate is over there also, and the east gate is where the Messiah is supposed to return. He's supposed to come through there, and if you've seen the pictures right now, it's sealed up, and it tells us that in the word it is saying it'll be sealed up, and he's going to be the one that's going to come right through it. So the horse gate would be near Solomon's stables, which makes perfect sense, right? It's the horse gate. In the gate, we get a little glimpse of that. this is where the healing to get off your high horse to go through this gate. And so I was like, okay, I see that. And then I found another article, and I cannot think of the website right now. Christian Study Library, maybe I think it was called. I just happened to Google the horse gate to find out some more about it because there wasn't much information. And it resonated what he had to say in his article, that this was probably a gate that was full of lots of pomp and circumstance. This is where dignitaries came through um, with their entourage, right? And so they would come in through this gate. Maybe it's where the Queen of Sheba, maybe she came through this gate. But the part that resonates with me the most is that we know, ladies, that once there was a Prince of Peace, he rode into Jerusalem on a humble donkey. That's the lowest of the kind of the horse animals, right? There was a Prince of Peace who rode into Jerusalem on a humble donkey. But hallelujah, that prince returns as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. His name is faithful and true. He comes waging war in righteousness. That's Revelation 19:11 through 16. I hope you guys are seeing those connections. So seeing that connection between the 8th month, Cheshvan, is reserved for the Messiah. Here we're talking about the horse gate. We're talking about the Messiah returning. He comes in on that white horse. We are waiting his return, and he's coming with that bow and his double-edged sword. And so we know the first time he came, he had a specific reason he was here the first time, and the second time is coming to make things right, in and serve up the justice. So, hallelujah! Thank you, Father. Our letter, the letter Nun. Nun gives us the idea of a humble servant, our Messiah. It represents life, offspring, and an heir. Psalm 34:2 says, "My soul will make it boast in Yahweh, make its boast in Yahweh, but let the humble hear and be glad." So as we humble ourselves, we're not boasting in ourselves and the things that we can do. We're boasting what the Messiah has done in us. What he, all those things that we started taking care of in Tishri in that 7th month, ladies, we boast in those things that he did. And then there's those around us who are humble enough to hear and be glad, and they can say, yes, I see what the Father has done in you, and I want that. I want some of that. I want to make peace with my family. I want to peace with myself. And so when we boast in those things that he has done, the humble are going to hear, and it's going to remind us of, are we being a servant? Are we serving those around us? We can boast in all the knowledge that we have. None of that means nothing. Me learning anything about these months means nothing if I'm not willing to go and serve my neighbor and my enemy, for that matter. Nun is the number 50 is associated with it. Jubilee year, redemption and release, the Omer count, 49 plus 1, right? So we have that enough and then more. So that's where, the 8 comes in. So we had our 7 Sabbaths and then 1 more. And that, again, redemption and release when our Messiah returns. Again, it's the moving of the natural. When we allow him to humble our hearts and work, things that we thought we would never see begin to happen. Maybe those relationships you thought that would never begin to come to fruition, or somebody you thought would never come to the knowledge of the Messiah. maybe that's what we're beginning to see when we humble ourselves. We have going on here in that are associated with the month of Cheshvan. We've already talked about number 8, the last great day, covenant, because the circumcision is on the 8th day. Temple dedication is 8 days long. There were 8 people saved on the ark. David was the 8th son. So if you have some more, type them in there in the chat. So there's our number. The feast, there are none. The month is reserved for the Messiah. If I don't know if anybody was able to download the PDF that's like the note-taking one. This is what this kind of goes through. And so you don't necessarily have to download the PDF. It just kind of lays it out for you. I don't have the information there because I think you learn better when you write it down. so I didn't put the information, but I did put the category. So there says numbers and feast, and then the themes for this month. And you also find these in Keisha's book. Third temple, ark and flood, rainbow, new beginnings, creation, cleansing water, abundance. That might be a good name for this month, Genesis 6 through 8. And it just so happens we'll be reading that next month or next week, sorry. Ezekiel 40-44 is about the temple. Revelation is the throne and the rainbow. That's always kind of a cool like study there. And Jeremiah 31, weeping, and Rachel. Rachel's connected to this month. I don't have like good information on that here for you, but if you go to graceandtorah.net, Keisha might have there. I know where I've seen stuff from her, but I don't know if it's on her website, but I'm on there. The food. So at our new moon study, we try to bring in the foods. Again, we're using all those senses to remind us of the things. So when we get to Cheshvan, we will have a rainbow of colors to eat, a fruit and veggie tray, a charcuterie board to be all fancy. So Rhonda, we'll get her on that. She's probably like, what? So yeah, so she is so good about about putting these things together, the foods that go, and we've had such a good awesome. Vegetables require a little water to grow, and they keep past the harvest. So I think that's why that's on there. It's listed in Keisha's book. So I was like, I had to ask myself this week, like, why root vegetables? Because there's not really a reason there, but as I thought about it, that's kind of what I came up with. Next is our Medot, and this I probably don't have enough on here for what it is and how important it is. So in Keisha's book, she'll have Medot, and she usually has 3 things listed there. For the month of Cheshvan, it's moderation, silence, and oh my gosh, I can't see it. Is it order? Like I have to look it up. These Medots, so these are character traits. That's what Medot is. And yes, moderation, silence, and order. Sorry, guys. Like all of my graphics are sitting on right on top of that word. We're called to righteousness as followers of the Holy One. If we're bearing his image, it's up to us to find out what that looks like. So he is one of moderation. He can be silent. He can give us that silence when we need it. And he is definitely an Elohim of order. Meditating on the traits for the month allow you to begin to come into alignment with him. So these aren't just like, oh, these are interesting musings or things to think about. Really find one that stands out. That's what I do when we do our painted rock. I look at it and I'll say, which one is calling to me? And as I can tell you right now, as I'm looking at this, it's order for me. Order, because that's just one of the things that I know I need to personally deal with, bringing her into my life, order and organization. So that's the one I will most likely be doing when we go into Cheshvan. This is also connected to Musar, and one of the things that Rhonda has begun doing is she has been giving us a paper that is the Musar um, uh, um, meditations on it. So Musar is just the Hebrew word for like corrections or discipline. And Keisha writes about it on her website. So Everyday Holiness by Alan Morenis is the one that is a book that she highly recommends, and we've started reading it. He has like a daily one that you can do. It's like 365 days daily devotional. So for 1 week, you're thinking and meditating on one character trait. But yeah, go to graceandtora.net and check out what she's got there. And I know that she plans on writing more about Musar in the future. It's so important. My husband has grasped onto this idea of Musar, and that it's kind of the key. He's seeing it like all throughout the New Testament. It's not called that, but as he reads it with this new lens, he's like, this is Musar. This is Musar. So begin to check that out, and for the time being, yeah, think about these. Moderation, silence, and order is one of those that is calling. Next, we have our sense of smell. We've talked about that a lot already. I think it's for each sense, not always taste, touch, smell, sight like we normally think of. One coming up soon will be sleep, or it might be anger. And again, it's these things that are part of our physical um, that we can bring into tune with the Father. And he teaches us things through them. When Noah came out of the ark, he built an altar and made a sacrifice. And Yahweh said, it says that Yahweh smelled the soothing aroma. And what's interesting, I did not, I don't think I went this on the, when we talked about the year, for 5782, one of the words for 82 is called, oh, where do I have it down? Neohawk. I'm going to butcher it without seeing it in front of me. And what it means is it's the soothing aroma. So I just thought it was interesting that we're in 5782. One of the words that adds up to 82 is this neohawk. It's very hard to say. It's a lot of throaty stuff, but it's that soothing aroma. And I had to like ask myself when I was looking at it again. It says Yahweh smelled it. He was soothed. And it's used that way. Sometimes it'll say sweet aroma, but it actually, the word more has to do with soothing than a sweet aroma. And so, I don't know, it just was interesting that Yahweh, like he went through, his whole creation just had to be destroyed because of the rebellion and the evil that was there. And I thought, how heartbreaking for him to do that. Like he may have been angry, but the heartbreak that went into that. And then as he began to see his creation come back to life and see this righteous man, Noah, come out, and he built an altar and made that sacrifice, and he soothed by that. It just was something that really got to me. And it says in 2 Corinthians that we are the aroma of Messiah among those who are saved and among those who are dying. To some we're deadly fragrance and others life-giving. So we want to be a soothing aroma, a good aroma. But to some who are just plain evil, we're going to stink to them, and that's okay. It's okay to stink to them. But if we're giving off a stinky aroma, we don't want that. We are supposed to give off the fragrance of the Messiah. So what is that aroma that you're giving off? Okay, the organ that it took me a while to kind of, I don't know, understand or get through a little bit. Um, but um, I've like, I see it, like I've begun to understand, like, what does the organ have to do with the month? I don't understand it, but we are soul, body, and spirit. It all works together. We can't have things happen to us spiritually or emotionally, those kinds of things, and it not affect us in the physical. What happens when you're discouraged and worried and you can't let go? You're in knots. Some people get ulcers that's so bad. We got to start paying attention to those emotions. There are physical warnings. Those are warning signs, our blinkers are like beep, beep, beep. Hey, pay attention here. There's something not right. And if we are all caught up in that, we need to stop and say, okay, Father, I think you need to show me what's going on. Why am I so worked up about this? How am I gonna um, how am I gonna deal with this so that I'm not tied up in knots? In one of the healing in the Hebrew months, one of the ladies does like, it's like therapeutic tapping. So it's if you're not familiar with it, and I'm not hugely familiar with it, but I have had like acupuncture and things like that, where you're kind of trying to release some of those energy blockages that you have. And she goes into one really kind of gets into like how working with the physical, um, we can begin to get those emotional healing and releases that we need. And this is going to lead us, we're getting toward the end here, ladies, but this is going to lead us into our areas of healing. Rhonda, if you're still on and looking at the screen, these rocks here are for you. These are not mine. They're just a stock photo, but when I saw them, I had to add them because she's my rock girl. The flood reminds us that cleansing is taking place. This can be hard and it can be traumatic. What's revealed when the waters recede may not look like the landscape we're used to. When Noah got off that ark, um, I don't even think he was in the same spot, right? he had drifted someplace different. But not only that, when maybe if he traveled home, things didn't look the same. There's when a flood happens, things can, it changes your whole landscape. So it's not what we're used to. Sometimes roots are exposed, those things that were brought up in the 7th month that we sought out or gave forgiveness for. It doesn't just end there. So now we have to get at the root of those things. And so maybe you sought out someone and you asked them for forgiveness, and forgiveness was given. So now maybe it's the time when you have some quiet time to really pause and reflect on the 7th month. You can say, I don't understand why I reacted that way that caused me to do something I had to ask forgiveness for. That's what's going on in this month. You're getting to the root of those things. We're not just letting say, I forgive you, and everything's great. Because if we haven't gotten to the root of the problem, then those things might creep up again. And then we might find ourselves next year, instead of a little higher on the mountain, we're at the same place, we're at that same obstacle. So ladies, I just really encourage you to begin to uh, begin to ask him. And it's not going to feel good all the time. We don't like to be exposed. We don't want our roots exposed. We don't even like our hair roots exposed, and we don't want our emotional baggage. Yeah, trust him with that. You have to trust him with those things, that he's not going to leave them exposed, ladies. He's got good things for you. The quietness of the 8th month doesn't mean inactivity. So just like as we come into fall, we begin to see things dying out, so to speak, quote unquote, they're not really dead. They're going inactive so they can do other things. And all of that is going on underground. Roots are going a little deeper, nutrients being pulled up, whatever is happening there. That's that's something we see in nature, and that's something that we can take and see in us also. We're about to head into the dark months. So you kind of have to be prepared and ready for that. Some people really have a hard time, like physically and mentally, with those dark months that are coming up with wintertime because that lack of sunlight. Um, but it can have a spiritual implication too. So if you're kind of preparing and getting yourself ready for those things, and letting the Father do that, then you can walk into those winter months and you're carrying your lamp and you're ready. And that takes us into our spiritual warfare. This is the month that you must war with words that are not spoken. Um, can go to the inward parts of your, uh, they can go into the inward parts of your stomach. Um, begin moving in new revelation. That's 8. And you will be digesting and assimilating God's wisdom and truth. That's from Chuck Pierce, A Time to Advance. He has a book about the months and the tribes, and really good. And it talks about kind of the um, prophetic things that we see in the tribes and the months. The scorpion reminds me that we need to use a special spiritual light to reveal the enemy's plans. If you're like homeschool mom, so you probably already know this. I think I just learned this when we were shut down, and the Creation Museum and the Ark encounter, they had like videos that they posted, and one of them was about these insects. It was about scorpions and tarantulas and all this stuff. But she did the black light on it. And so all scorpions, if you put a black light on them at night, you can see them in the dark. And I was like, well, isn't that quite the spiritual lesson? And so here we are, we're about to go into those dark months, like we said, but we have our special light. It's not just light, it's not just regular light. It's his special light. And it's going to shine a light on what the enemy's doing. You can say, oh, I see you over there in the corner, and I don't want you here. And you're out of my house. You're going to clean your house. Get those scorpions out of there. Just ask him to reveal it. He wants to show you. He doesn't want you in the dark to the enemy's plans. This is a month of increase in revelation and victory, testimony, awareness, and discernment. We're going to pray into the roots of the issues, and we are going to find that revelation, that victory. We're going to have a testimony from our test. We're going to have that increased awareness to know what to do about it. And we're going to have discernment to see the enemy at the work and know we're not fighting against our spouse, our children, our neighbor, mom, dad, whoever it may be, co-workers, the government, whatever it is that you're dealing with. The enemy has a plan, and the Father's like, hey, I'm right here. Like, I'm going to carry you through this. We're going to reveal things. We're going to bring those things out. And I think I just listened to the webinar with Dr. Robin, and I listened to the second half of it today. And I think Charlie even talks about that. Like, don't pray, like pray the prayer, but be careful what you're praying for. So yeah, it's going to be revealed. So you got to be ready for what's going to be revealed. So pray into those root issues, because he is so loving that he cares for you so much. He doesn't want them to be laid bare and left like that. He will lovingly, because he is the master gardener, he's going to come in with his good soil, his living water, and he's going to cover those up, and he's going to tend to you. Next, the fruit will be good, ladies. We can come back around, and we're going to be a little higher on the mountain. So finally, I just want to say the 8th month, Cheshvan, has proven a great place to start our journey. We have supplies from the 7th month to fill up our packs for our journey. Some things will be pulled out and left along the way. And then there will be things that we pick up that supernaturally make things lighter. We're going to praise him for the rains and for the rest of Cheshvan, so that we will not forget all he has done. We will remember the battle taking place in the heavenlies on our behalf, and that we have the power to tread on crafty serpents and deadly scorpions. Hallelujah. We're going to be humble servants like the Nun. And we're going to take our increase spiritual and physical, and we're going to let it overflow in love to others to show them that they can be a new creation. In this way, we are a pleasing aroma to the Father. And as we walk out this month, we'll meditate on moderation, silence, and order, or medots. Is there one that's speaking to you? And this will lead us into healing that needs to take place so that when we come back around next year, ladies, a little higher up the mountain, we can see how far we have traveled. And that is the month of Cheshvan.
Awesome. This is Ryder. This is what Ryder.
Do you want me to stop recording? Or are you?
I unless there's any questions or anything that anybody might have that we want to put on there, but that's what I have. I hope that came through. I know I had some spotty internet, but I hope that the message of the month of Cheshvan came through, ladies, because it really, like, I can't tell you what this last year has done for me and just my own my prayer life. When we were down and out last year with Cheshvan, and we were all, some of us were sick. We had friends that were in the hospital. My prayer life has been, it exploded this last year. And part of that has to do with the months and seeing what he's doing in there. And Rhonda and I both have talked about, like, because as one of the months we'll talk about that authority issue that comes up, and we're like, well, I don't, just because it says there's authority issues, I don't want to like call authority issues down just because, but Rhonda, she had a great like thought on that that's not, it's not that we're saying, oh, there's authority issues in this month, well, we're going to see them. Well, one, we just kind of, it just does happen, but it's that he's given it, he says, hey, there may be authority issues. I'm going to make you aware of it. And now you know how to pray about it. And that's kind of what I've seen through the month. So that's what I have for you ladies. And I hope you're able to walk this out with me.
That was amazing. I just want to thank you. What a great job. Everybody clap. Yay, great job.
High five.
Time.
No, damn. You nailed it. Hallelujah.
It was awesome. Wait.
I hated
good.
that I hated that I couldn't see all the chats. I was like, there's like 40 chats over there. What are they saying? I want to now, like, can somebody say, are those saved in the,
They are
I don't know if they're saved in the recording, but I want to go back. Good.
And so you guys know on the side, what was happening over here on the side and part of the side chat, Rhonda agreed to be our guest in November for our special webinar, and she's going to teach us how to make prayer boards. So,
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I'm so nervous.
Oh, no, it's just us. Don't be nervous.
She is awesome at it. Like literally, ladies, the thing that this lady, the beauty that she brings, that's why I said she's like my beauty. She brings beauty into every idea that I have. She's so good at it. So
What
good.
did they say, Erica? Beauty comes out of pain, right? So the Father grows us, he squeezes us, right? We make it one step at a time. And in those moments that we can have gratitude, can see beauty, and then that comes out. So there is healing. I'm like, I just know beauty, like Erica says, that I'm her bling girl. Well, that's how I see the Father. He shows me beautiful things. And so to be able to share that and express it, like that little peace tray, I can't even tell you, that's been like healing. So that's been a great place of healing for me, to be able to express my thoughts in that way. So, yep.
there was a lot of chat going on, Erica, so I can sum a bunch of that up for you. A lot of chat was going on about how the enemy is trying to, I said this, spirit of Antichrist, everything that the Father created for beauty, that created for healing, that created to tell us a story in the heavenlies, there has been a perversion of it where it's horoscopes being used to tell your future, whether it's we see different religions are being formed using things like, I don't know, it could be tapping or some things might be, we might be scared to say, oh, and someone I think said the rainbow, like we need to take it all back. He created it for us. He created, there's nothing new that someone else created. He created those things for our pleasure,
Absolutely.
for our
Mhm.
healing, to tell us the stories. And so
Yeah.
just to let you know, that was happening a lot in the chats about the
Okay.
about that, as far as how, you know, some people are a little nervous, like, we were talking about all these horoscopy things and mythology
Mhm.
creatures. What are you saying?
Mhm. It's hard, and you don't, you're, you almost don't want to share sometimes when the Father teaches you things because of that, but you see the value of what he created and the revelation that he gives when we're willing to search those out and do those things. And so, you know, I I even asked Rhonda, like I even asked her about the organ, because that's one I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, that just seems kind of weird. You know, but Keisha, I know Keisha gives it the okay. So, you know, Keisha gives it the okay, then I feel like, you know, I'm on a good trail.
Well, if you think about it, organs and spiritual warfare go together, right? The things that you stay alert to, right? Because whatever is happening in the physical or in the spiritual is happening, is manifested, right? So if we're
Mhm.
experiencing it, sickness comes from something, whether it's mental or physical sickness, right? It's something out of disorder, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I have really enjoyed looking at those things and just staying mindful. I don't remember it all the time, so I go back and read that principle several times because I want to keep those things fresh in my mind. But they are really incredible if you start paying attention to them, because it somehow brings you in tune with your body and how you're feeling. You know, it's connecting our physical to, you know, our thoughts and what the Father's trying to tell us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I know that I learned a lot. And if no one else has any
I know it's a
questions,
lot of information coming at you.
it is. I will stop the recording, and then anybody else who wants to chat, we can chat after it's over, if that is good with everybody. So
It's good.